Hi YouTube, Ian Porter again, continuation of the series on religious liberty and persecution. Now, as I left off last time, I was attending court. I was offered a sort of what I was thinking it would be a sweet deal. I wouldn't have to go to prison if I admitted guilt to the 3 offences, and I would get either community service or something like that, but still wouldn't be able to see the children or risk going to court and contesting all the allegations and risk 9 years. Now, why would you offer that if I'm such a monster who perverted the course of justice, committed all these? So even before there was any trial or any words being brought to the case, I was offered that. Why would you? If I'm a villain, a fiend of society, why not just try me and let that be done? But anyway, so I was offered that. I refused it. While advice was telling me that it looks like it could be a good deal in the circumstances, it was totally rejected. It would never be accepted. So during the course of the trial, oh yeah, by the way, there's a lot of rain here today, and but still work has to be done outside, so the work goes on in the farm. So lots of questions was asked. They was trying to throw everything at me to try to convict me of perverting the course of justice and harassment as well. Even calls that I was making, legitimate calls to do with 25 years worth of tools was in the house in Tarifa that I need to move out of there, and even calls made to organise other things was all been lumped together as harassment. Every call I'm making is lumped together as harassment. But anyway, that was a complete assault, but yet at the end of it all, I wasn't found guilty of harassment, and I wasn't found guilty of perverting the course of justice, even though it was tried to the utmost to convict me of those 2 crimes, which would have totaled up to 6 years in prison. So the only crime that was left that they convicted me of was the habitual abuse of my 2 children and my ex-wife, and that would be a sentence of 3 years and fines, as I said before, which was €30,000, and still not going to see the children for years more to come, etc. But during the trial, so that's the charge, that's the sentence now that I have on me, and the appeal is going on, and at the end of the appeal then it will be decided what takes further. If the appeal fails, then I've got to go to prison and serve 3 years, and during the appeal process, once you've exhausted the appeal process in the country, then reading the rules of the European Court of Human Rights, I can then go to the European Court of Human Rights to bring my case to them once the systems of appeals in Spain has been exhausted, or they won't allow me to do any further appeal to the Supreme Court, etc. So that's where we're at. Now, some of the questions I was asked of me and specifically of witnesses that were Christians were, do you think that Christ is coming again? And when do you think he's coming? How soon? What? And so questions on those lines. So therefore your answers is then being weighed as therefore it's some extremism type of theory. And I'll speak on the sentence report later on, because the psychiatrist who had to interview all of us for no more than 2 hours in total gave their view that it was beneficial for the children to be kept away from me so that they wouldn't be influenced by what he called, quote, religious theories that was inappropriate for children. So before even going on to later on, the best results that I could have got from this trial would have been acquitted of all things. I was acquitted of 2, but the other third, they obviously said that my religious practice and the things I'm doing was fanatical, and then other false accusations was thrown in that had no evidence to corroborate it, but they would say, well, the psychiatrist report saying that things were inappropriate, etc., was strong evidence coming from a psychiatrist. So where does a psychiatrist get the the permission to be able to judge on what is adequate religious practice and what isn't. So those are the kind of aspects that was going on there. And so I would say the second best thing that could have ever happened, apart from being released, was that they committed themselves to writing, laying out all these things that they were saying is religious inappropriateness of religion. Unbeknown to them, their psychiatrists and whoever didn't seem to know the law of Spain, which even my lawyer didn't know at the time. I had to research afterwards and bring that to him as part of what needs to be an appeal, that there is a Article 16 of the Spanish law that says a person is allowed to freely practice their religion and teach their children any manner they wish, their religious practices, using any media or whatever. So if that was known by the psychiatrists, then why are they then writing saying inappropriate religious practice, and that the children would benefit from being away from this thing, and that the children were inappropriately and were repeating things that they were taught which was inappropriate for them to repeat and to kind of believe. So I think they've shot themselves in the foot, not knowing, because this type of case is probably very rare. They've ever done things like this, and possibly in this province very rare. And so they've committed themselves in writing for the world to see, in the sentence, all the things that they levied at my religious practice. So Harry Potter was another one that they spent a lot of time stressing on, that I banned them, and false accusations. I threw the books into the bin, which I never did. I just explained to them, because if you live in a household where there's a mixed belief, it would be very unwise to try to impose anything. You've got to teach and let people accept who wants to accept, and who don't want to accept, don't accept. If anybody tries to enforce anything in a mixed household, you're going to get conflict, you're going to get all manner of things. So the children accepted freely, and they put down the Harry Potter book themselves, but even in the courts and in the sentence, to even suggest that the Harry Potter wasn't a good book was an act of preventing their liberty and overstepping the mark and fanatical. Little did they know, if they did a Google search, they would find that there's thousands and tens of thousands of people in the US who ban their children from reading Harry Potter in households where there are two people's Christians and they don't allow those books in. But unbeknown to them, they were thinking this is something that is some example of extremism. So listen on to them. They kind of shot themselves in the foot with all manner of things which they have written in the sentence regarding religion, and questioning me on aspects of my faith which is beyond the realms. If I believe that God is coming in 10 years' time, they can't say that's extreme. But they've positioned everything as religious theories, inappropriate, and they've stepped across the mark because they didn't even know what their own law prohibits regarding questioning and bringing any kind of reproach against somebody based on their religious beliefs, doctrines and practices. So anyway, videos will keep getting longer and longer, but I'll come back next one tomorrow with more about what was written in the sentence itself. Bye for now.